Dear viewers and listeners of Cover Hub and Radio Candid, Namaste and good afternoon. Welcome to the very special interview with Admiral Professor Jayanath Colombage, the Foreign Secretary of Sri Lanka. Admiral Professor Jayanath Colombage is the Foreign Secretary of Sri Lanka. He has served the Sri Lankan Navy for a period of 36 years and retired as the Commander of the Navy. He is the 18th Commander of the Sri Lankan Navy and was decorated for gallantry and commended for exceptional service to the Navy. Previously, he was Additional Secretary President for Foreign Relations. He holds a PhD from General Sir John Kotelwala, Defense University, Sri Lanka. He holds MSc on Defense and Strategic Studies from Madras University and Masters on International Studies from King's College, London. He is a visiting lecturer at the University of Colombo, Defense Service Command and Staff College, Sri Lanka, Kotelawala Defense University, Bandara Naike Center for International Studies, and Bandara Naike International Diplomatic Training Institute. He is a fellow of Nautical Institute, London, UK. Admiral Colombage is a guest professor at Sichuan University and Lausanne Normal University in China, and an adjunct professor at National Institute of South China Sea Studies, Haikou, China. In addition, he has been a guest lecturer in several key universities and training institutes in Bangladesh, India, Japan, and Pakistan. He has also been an editor and reviewer of a number of international renowned academic journals. In addition, he has served as the Director General of the Institute of National Security Studies, Sri Lanka. Today, we'll be discussing Sri Lanka's foreign policy, maritime security of the Indian Ocean, and Nepal-Sri Lanka relations. Admiral Dr. Jayanath Colombage, once again, welcome to Cover Hub and Radio Candid. The first question for today is, for the first time, the Foreign Ministry of Sri Lanka, together with Office of the President, has drafted the 20-point Basic Foreign Policy Directive. How do we assess the government's new policy framework? Will it help Sri Lanka in achieving its goal and confront the many contemporary challenges it faces in the international sphere?
Well, as you rightly mentioned, the first time in our 73 years of our history, we have a written down foreign policy formula, which is supposed to guide the work of our missions abroad and how we deal with the international organization, multilateral organization, and bilaterally. And one of the main ideas of this foreign policy directive was to shift our focus more towards economic diplomacy, because right now Sri Lankan economy is not doing very well, and we believe we have the potential to do better, and we believe our missions and the foreign ministry per se should work even harder to get more investment to the country, more technology to the country, more training to the country, and also to promote our products and our businesses overseas. So economic diplomacy was a key focus on these 20-point foreign policy directives for 2020 and beyond. At the same time, based on the geostrategic situation in the Indian Ocean region that this country has been experiencing for the last so many years, we wanted to be very clear that what our foreign policy affiliation is. For example, we are technically a non-aligned country, but in our foreign policy directive, we say whilst remaining a non-aligned country, we wish to remain neutral, because when you talk about non-aligned, there were two clearly identifiable blocks at that time. But right now there is nothing like that. So right now, therefore, we feel that the major powers and the aspiring major powers in the Indian Ocean region wants other country to join them, bandwagon them, work with them, allied with them. We didn't want to do that. We just wanted to remain neutral, and also again maintain friendly relations with all the countries purely for economic prosperity. So as you can see, two main focus on this 20-point foreign policy directive. One is economic diplomacy. Other one is how do we address the geostrategic situation prevalent in the Indian Ocean. And therefore, we believe that this is the way forward for Sri Lanka to the foreseeable future.
Thank you, sir. Indian External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar made a 3-day visit to Sri Lanka in January after the virtual summit between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Prime Minister of Sri Lanka Mahinda Rajapaksa in September 2020. How do you view the recent engagement between Sri Lanka and India? Does it signify India's growing interest to further ties with Sri Lanka?
Well, you see now India has this neighborhood first policy. And when India is having the neighborhood first policy, we also should have a similar reciprocal policy, right? So in our in international relation, insofar as strategic relations are concerned, it is India first. I mean, we give priority to India's strategic security environment and India's security concern. Now, the visit by the Foreign Minister Jaishankar, then NSA Ajit Doval, then the talks between the leadership, these are all normal things. I mean, these are very positive signs that Sri Lanka and India are both interested in enhancing bilateral ties because we believe Sri Lanka is relatively a small country in comparison to India in size, in population, in economic. But in geostrategic terms, Sri Lanka is very important to India. On the other way around, or the vice versa, India is very important, critically important to Sri Lanka on geostrategic terms. So therefore, this is it's a mutually beneficial relationship. And we have no choice anyway. We should not antagonize India in any way. We should not be a strategic security concern to in India in any way. India has a large population, nearly 600 million middle class, and one of the fastest growing, or rather one of the fastest growing major economies in the region. So we need to capitalize from that. But whilst maintaining our sovereignty, whilst maintaining our independence, we need to benefit from India. We need to work together, work with India. So these visits are critically important, of course, because of COVID. We could not travel between India and Sri Lanka as much as we would have wanted to. But these visits are important even during the COVID. Some high-level visits took place. So this is important for both countries.
Thank you, sir. How do you view the great power contestation in the Indian Ocean region, particularly the aspirations of China, India, and the United States? What ramification can it have in the coming days in the region and in Sri Lanka?
You know, Sri Lanka is a country, every day we feel the strategic game is being played here. For some, we are the chessboard, they can come and play the game. For some, we are the soccer field, they come and play the game. So we do witness this strategic competition being played on the soil of Sri Lanka on a day-to-day basis. Whatever we do, whether it is the vaccine diplomacy, whether it is investment, whether it is maritime security, there is a component of this geostrategic competition in the Indian Ocean. Now, in the Indian Ocean, India is the big residential power, but China is also pretty much an Indian Ocean power now. I mean, China is in the Indian Ocean in a big way. Of course, USA, being the preeminent military power, has been in this region for a long time, and they are still there. So Indian Ocean is the focus or the center of attraction of all these major players. Everybody wants to come, everybody wants to stay, everybody wants to play the game in the Indian Ocean for different reasons, different strategic reasons, different economic reasons, different security reasons. So we do see this game being played in the Indian Ocean on a day-to-day basis. Unfortunately, we are in the spheres of influence of all these major powers, and we are in axis of influence of all these major powers. It coincides in Sri Lanka. So therefore, actually in geostrategic terms, Sri Lanka has gone up in a very big way because of this focus attraction of major powers. Because, you know, if you look at the geography, Sri Lanka is the southernmost landmass of South Asia. or even for that matter, the whole Asia in the Indian Ocean. We are the southernmost tip. And very close to Sri Lanka pass the busiest east-west shipping lane of the world, which is accounting for roughly 50% of world containers, 72% of world energy, and 35% of world bulk cargo. Ironically, these figures are not necessarily for us. These are extra-regional trade. So therefore, the net energy importers like Japan, China, even India, right? And for trade, the Indian Ocean is the artery. Indian Ocean is the heart of the ocean trade today. And Sri Lanka is located just 12 nautical miles north of that trade route. So therefore, we are in a very important location. But this important location is a curse also because the attraction is too much and the battle is played here. So that is why we wish to remain neutral.
What should be done to overcome the mistrust and the trust deficiency in the Indian Ocean region? With Sri Lanka's growing strategic importance, what role can Sri Lanka play in maintaining the peace and security in the region?
Well, as you rightly said, one of the most important aspects of relations in the Indian Ocean is mistrust and lack of trust. We don't trust each other at all. Now, that is why SARC, created long time ago with a lot of aspiration, is somewhat in hibernation today. And SARC is even now least economically integrated region in the world, right? So why is it so? Because we have so much of mistrust among the South Asian country. So there is a huge trust deficiency across the Indian Ocean. Now, as I mentioned, Sri Lanka is growing in strategic importance. So how we leverage this strategic importance into economic gains will determine the future of our country, because of COVID, most of the economies are battered. Sri Lanka is one of the worst hit countries because of the COVID pandemic, which is raging across the world during the last year and 8 months, right? So we have a problem here in Sri Lanka. Now we have to play our cards very carefully. Whilst we give priority in the strategic security space to India, it does not mean we deal only with India. We have to deal with every country in the region who are interested in the region, either residential or non-residential, and try to benefit from them. But whilst maintaining our strategic autonomy, whilst maintaining neutrality, whilst maintaining non-aligned status. It's a very difficult task because for a small country, not economically powerful, not militarily powerful, it's very difficult to play this game. But that's the only way out for Sri Lanka. So Sri Lanka should not bandwagon with one country against the other or one group of countries against another. We should not hedge one country against the other and try to benefit from both. We must try to maintain balanced relations with everyone. We must try to maintain strategic autonomy and work best, work well for the economy and the people of Sri Lanka. So therefore, we have to play a role in the Indian Ocean. Being, if we believe that we are in the center of the Indian Ocean, we have to play a role in the Indian Ocean, promoting maritime security, ensuring the peace and stability of the region, and safety, because not only peace and stability, but safety of life at sea is of critical importance. You know that in the month of May, we had one of the worst maritime disasters of our time, right? So maritime safety is important, maritime security is important, maintaining peace and stability is important, maintaining the freedom of sea lines of communication across the Indian Ocean is important. In all these aspects, Sri Lanka, though a small country, using or exploiting the geostrategic location can play a major role.
You announced that Sri Lanka will soon be assuming the role of Vice Chair of Indian Ocean Rim Association in the later part of 2021, and thereafter Chair for the tenure of 2023 to 2025, Maritime Safety and Security. With Sri Lanka also being the founder of Indian Ocean Rim Association, how does it plan to carry out its responsibility, leading to the Indian Ocean Rim Association Working Group on Maritime Safety and Security?
Well, I do have a lot of confidence and lot of hope on IORA because you see, as I mentioned, there are many countries interested in the region, and every major country comes to the Indian Ocean with their own strategy. It can be Indo-Pacific strategy, free and open Indo-Pacific strategy, something belong to them. Unfortunately, the Indian Ocean does not have their own strategy. Where is Indian Ocean strategy? Now is the time that we work through IORA, Indian Ocean Rim Association, which encompasses large number of Indian Ocean littorals and even some outside players as observers and dialogue partners to design, to develop an Indian Ocean strategy to maintain what I mentioned earlier, sanctity of the sea lanes of communication, maintain security, maintain safety. And therefore, we firmly believe that Sri Lanka is right now the lead country in formulating policies for maritime safety and maritime security. Because Sri Lanka, if you take for 30 years, we were engaged in a violent armed conflict, which had an ocean going component. The Sea Tigers, which we battled, they had attack craft, logistic craft, merchant fleet, everything: terrorist financing, money laundering, human smuggling, narcotic trading, gun smuggling. They did gun running, they did everything. So we have gained a lot of experience by fighting with them on maritime security, and being located at the closeness to the close proximity to the sea lines, we have a lot of experience in maritime safety as well. So we are determined to make these policy recommendations and make it work. Unfortunately, because of COVID, the progress of IORA could not be fast tracked the way that we hope. But sooner than later, the COVID will be behind us. So we need to be prepared. We need to do our planning now, do our studies now, have things ready to implement when the COVID is over. We do believe in IORA. We have great confidence in IORA. We believe this is the right platform for the future of the Indian Ocean, mainly for maritime security, maritime safety, and prosperity.
The government of Sri Lanka took a decision to not sign the Millennium Challenge Corporation Compact based on the petition that cited MCC as a threat to the country's sovereignty and national security. In your view, what is the sole reason why the Sri Lankan government did not proceed ahead with the agreement?
Public opinion. That's my short answer. You see, we are a democratic country. We all are. You are a democratic country. We are a democratic country. In a democracy, the West has to recognize, West has to respect the same principle applied in those countries are applicable here also, right? There is no point talking about MCC now because it is something in the history. It was supposed to be a grant. But when it came to the surface, there was a huge public debate in the country regarding certain clauses of it, right? So there were arguments against and for. And then the people decided that we don't want it even if it is a grant, because there were many perceptions, there were many viewpoints, there were many arguments to say that it jeopardized the sovereignty. It jeopardized it endangers the sovereignty of Sri Lanka, right? So I will not go into detail about it. I will not go into, because there was a commission appointed to study the MCC, and their report says, no, we should not do it. The previous government, which was there from 2015 to 2019, they wanted to do it, but they themselves disagreed on the contents of the MCC towards latter part. Unfortunately, it befell the government which came to power in 2019, right? It was not their creation, but it came to their responsibility. And finally, this government, based on public opinion, decided not to go ahead. So this is it's a very difficult situation to explain. You know, a grant of 480 million. Why should a small economy like Sri Lanka reject that? Is a question. But then I think though we are small, the national pride and the sense of national sovereignty is really valuable. It is uncompromising for us. I'm sure it is same for Nepal. It is uncompromisable. We can't compromise our national pride and national security and national sovereignty. So although it was a grant, it did not succeed. Uh, that's it. It's in the past now.
Sri Lankan Airlines recently launched a direct air flight from Kathmandu to Colombo. With the new development in Nepal-Sri Lanka relations, how do you see the impact it will have on connectivity and tourism between the two countries?
You see, Nepal is a country which many Sri Lankans consider with the highest respect and the highest regard and revered. I mean, as the birthplace of Lord Buddha, because Sri Lanka is a majority Buddhist country. Nearly 72% of Sri Lankans are Buddhist. So then one of their dream is one day before they die to come to Nepal and visit Lumbini, the sacred place where the Lord Buddha was born. That is one of the lifetime dreams of many Sri Lankan Buddhists, right? So we hold Nepal at a very high esteem, very high level. And we feel that Nepal is like Sri Lanka, a small country, a small economy, struggling to come out of shackles of the past and to move on. So therefore, I think the feeling among Sri Lankans about people of Nepal are really high. Now it is time we take another step forward and make the people to people contact move people to people contact to another level. In that, Nepal is not the closest neighbor Sri Lanka is having. You are so close to Himalayas and we are at the southern tip of India. So there's quite a long distance. So the best way is air travel, right? So to enhance people to people connectivity, enhance bilateral cooperation, enhance linkage between our two countries, air travel is of critically important. So therefore, the Sri Lankan Airlines or the new airlines, the air passage between our two countries will definitely help. Now the airline can have a flight. So the people and the governments have to make it happen, make it viable, make it more beneficial to both the countries, right? So then tourism, investment, small and medium enterprises, agriculture, I think the potential for cooperation between our two countries are great. So I'm hopeful that this airline or the new flight will definitely help in achieving that goal of enhanced bilateral people-to-people connections between Nepal and Sri Lanka.
You mentioned that Sri Lanka is Buddhist majority country. Sri Lanka has long been trying to cement ties with countries associated with Buddhism. How can Buddhism serve to draw Nepal and Sri Lanka together and act as a tool to bridge their relations? How can Nepal and Sri Lanka pursue their ties further in terms of Buddhism?
Well, I mean, Buddhism is a great religion in this part of the world. Of course, it was started in Nepal and came to India. And from India, it went to all over the world, especially towards the East. I think that should be now in this 21st century where we have this mistrust, where we have this non-forgiving attitude, where we try to dominate others. The teaching of Lord Buddha should be used to bridge bridges, to bring people closer together, right? Now, Nepal, although Lord Buddha was born in Nepal, Nepal is not a majority Buddhist country, right? But then we can work on what we have, the commonalities, the linkage, what we have between our two countries, and Buddhism can be one very important tool to bridge bridges, to create more linkage between our two people. Then on the same way, the Buddhism, now you see Indian government is giving a very important place to Buddhism. Now Indian Prime Minister Modi has promised to allocate like 13 million US dollars to develop Buddhist pilgrimage or Buddhist sites in Sri Lanka. So that's a great thing, right? Because this is our heritage. This is our history. This is our culture, right? Because our countries are, we have a great history, great culture. We believe in religion. We believe in gods. So we don't want to do harm to the other people. We don't believe in fighting, invading, attacking. We are very peace-loving people. And that has inculcated in us through the religion that we believe, whether it is Hinduism, whether it is Buddhism or Christianity or Islam. These are the four main religions that we have. So we must use whatever is common bonding between our two countries for the betterment of our two countries and carry it forward to the region. Now, our region, again, we have a very conflicting region. It's sometimes we feel as if we are sitting in a volcano waiting to erupt because we have, two of the nuclear powers as kind of enemies, India and Pakistan. And then, of course, China is another nuclear power in this region. Then US, France, and UK are nuclear powers in the region. And North Korea, not very far, aspiring to have nuclear power. So we are in a very difficult situation. So we need to patch up. We need to heal, right? The Buddhism is a great religion. It is a great philosophy. It's a complete way of life. It teaches you how to live. It teaches you how to respect the environment. It teaches you to develop good qualities. So these are good things coming from a religion. And that is now common to people of Nepal and people of Sri Lanka. So we must grab that. We must cultivate that. We must promote our relations through that, because to me, it is a very low hanging fruit. We can just pluck it because it's there. So that's one way to look at.
Admiral Professor Jayanath Colombage, thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. See you.